Welcome everybody. So today I want to show you how to make the plaster portion of your Sprig mold, okay? So this is a really quick version of plaster. If you're doing anything larger than this Sprig or you want it to last a really long time, you want to be more specific about how you mix your plaster. But I found, at least for my classes, if we're just doing a small Sprig mold like this is how we do it. So first off, you need some plaster. Absolutely never ever get plaster down the sink, wet or dry. Don't put it in there, okay? That's top number one. You also don't want to get water in the dry plaster because it'll activate and it'll create little lumps, and then the whole bag is done. So you always want to have your plaster separate from the water, and you're going to end up adding water to the plaster. I also have a mixing bowl that's specifically for plaster, which is rubbery. So once the plaster dries, instead of trying to wash it out in the sink and clogging the sink, you wait for it to dry and then you can crack it off. Now, if I don't have a flexible bowl like this, I need to use a mold release agent on any type of other non-flexible mold when like mixing the plaster. So if I'm using something like a 5-gallon bucket, I need to use a mold release agent. So either like some Vaseline or one of the lots of different kinds of mold release that they have. But you want to get all the gunk out of there, okay? So like spend a little bit of time, use a dry paper towel and really get like all the stuff out. Don't use water. Off. You also have to have your Sprig mold ready, and you want to make sure you have about 1/2 inch around the thing that you're trying to mold, and you want to be able to have it come up about 1 inch thickness above the thing that you're making. So I'm going to add just a little bit. Since I only have this little tiny thing, I'm just going to add a little bit of water to this. All right, so you can see I literally, like, it doesn't even go all the way to my first knuckle on my finger. Like, it's a little bit lower. It's just a real small amount of water. Okay, we're making a small thing. We don't need a lot, because whatever you have in water, once you add the plaster, it's gonna get even larger than what it was before. So now that I have that, I want to make sure that I'm not getting the plaster like wet in here. And if you're doing a lot of this, you want to make sure that it's vented, like either do this outside or have a vacuum going, but you don't want to breathe in all this or wear a big mask or something. So you're going to start adding this in, shake a little bit at a time, and you can see right now it's disappearing into the water very quickly. Okay, so add a little bit more. It's still disappearing in the water really quickly. You don't want to stick your finger, like you don't want to start mixing because that'll activate it. If you tap on the sides, that's okay, but don't stick anything in there or the activation process will start and you'll have minutes to get this completed, okay? So what I'm waiting for is I want to wait till the point where my plaster is not getting soaked up. So you can see like this is getting smaller and smaller and smaller. It's getting hydrated by the amount of water that's in there. So I need to add more plaster because I want to leave a little surface layer of plaster. So I'm gonna add a little bit more. When it starts taking longer to get there, you wanna wait longer to see how it's looking. But see how it's still getting darker pretty quick. So I know I'm still gonna need a little bit more plaster. Okay, so now you can see this clump over here, it's just barely getting all the way hydrated. So that means that I'm really close. Now I know over here is a little bit more liquidy, so I'm just gonna add a little bit more plaster over on that side. And I'm gonna tap it a little bit again. And I just want there to be just a little thin mountain of plaster left on the top of this. Okay. All right, so now to me, this looks pretty good. Most of it's hydrated, but there's just a little bit left. So now I'm just gonna use my hand and I'm gonna mix. Once you start mixing, then the activation starts and your time starts. Like once you start adding plaster to water, you don't have a lot of time to futz around and do stuff. Like you just have to get it done. So I'm checking with my fingers for any lumps. I can rub it on the side, but I want to try to get it as smooth as I can, as quickly as I can. Oh, I felt a lump. As smooth as I can, as quickly as I can before the activation process starts, okay? What's convenient about these is I can squeeze them to make it a little bit tighter. I'm gonna add my fingers in here and pour the plaster into my mold over my fingers at first, just so it goes in a little slower. So I'm gonna add in my plaster. Now this part I'm just gonna set to the side and I'm just gonna let it dry in there. Now if I left this with all these like funky bits on top, that's gonna make it harder to use because it's not gonna be flat. Plus there's still probably air bubbles in there. So I really wanna spend some time just bouncing this to get, you'll be able to start to see little air bubbles coming up, but I really want to get all the air bubbles out. And sometimes this can take a few minutes, but once you've mixed your plaster, it's gonna go through a couple different processes. So this is the liquid stage, and then it'll start to feel like frosting. So it'll start to get like a little more like firm. Oh, you can still see I'm getting a couple little bubbles, so I'm gonna do a little bit more tapping. And then once it starts heating up and it reaches the heat stage, it can get really hot. So like if you're trying to do like a body cast or something, you wanna do a little bit more research on what kind of plaster you want and how to do that so you don't accidentally burn the person that you're doing a body cast on, because they can get really severe chemical burns if it's not done correctly. So we don't want to do that. Okay, so I've got most of the air bubbles out. This is why you want to make sure it's really good and stuck to the bat so it doesn't float off into the plaster. And then once you are satisfied with your air bubbles coming out and you think you've got all your air bubbles, you're just gonna let this sit. You're just gonna let it sit until it's all dry. So probably the next day. Now, this is where students run into problems and they're like, but I need to wash my hands. Absolutely not. This can absolutely not go in the sink. So we're using this specifically so we can just let it dry and crack it into the garbage. And what we're gonna do for this is we're gonna use paper towels and we are going to really, wipe off our hands really good. So start with a paper towel and get just kind of as much as you can off like this. Throw it in the garbage, okay? Then do that a couple times so you can get as much off your hands as possible like this. Then you can take your paper towel and you can get it wet. So you can get the paper towel wet, but you're not actually putting your plaster hands in the sink. You're getting the paper towel wet and then you're bringing that over to the garbage can and you're wiping off all the plaster with the wet paper towel, and that's what's going in the garbage, right? So you might need to do that a couple times to try to get like around your fingers and all that kind of stuff, but it's really, really, really important that we don't get plaster down the sinks. Got all the plaster off that you can get off this way. So like once my hands look like this, then I can go ahead and wash my hands with soap and water in the sink. All right. Thanks everybody. I'll see you in the next video.